All right. I really feel like I am going to be on the line during this episode. Like, I feel like this could be a make it or break it for me right now.
Okay. I know the feeling.
Why is that?
You've done this to me a couple times.
What have I done?
On the Jeepsters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, so that's the thing, yes.
Yeah.
This is episode 40. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, hi, YouTube, all that, for episode 40, we're going to do something with 40. We play with numbers a lot. So YouTube, this is only our second episode, but we've done obviously 39 other episodes on the podcasting sources, and some of them are themed. Episode 40, we wanted to do the Toyota 40 Series Land Cruiser. It is, Toyota's version of the Jeep.
Yep.
And it is just an iconic off-road vehicle.
It is.
And as you know, my business at Thin Line Off-Road, probably 80% of it over the years has been vintage.
I believe the word is obsession.
Well, yeah, because I still currently personally own, 3-4 Land Cruisers?
I don't know. I lost count.
Well, I can see I got the parts one in the barn. I've got Brat Pack, which is a 60 series. I have a Iron Pig 55, which sits at the Mora. So that's 3. I have 3 Land Cruisers right now. I've owned 40 series, but I've never actually driven a 40 series. I've only had like non-running restorable parts rigs.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of feel like I'm on the line here, because am I going to do justice to the 40 series Land Cruiser? I know I can do justice to Land Cruisers in general, but specifically the 40 series has not really been my forte. So what do you think? Do you think we can still do this, John?
I think we'll wing it. That's kind of what we live by.
Well, I mean, isn't that the Land Cruiser lifestyle? The guys that are out there, the Instagram, traveling everywhere and just winging it, and not a lot of plans in life. The overlanding.
Reminds me, I found something on Marketplace. I meant to send you a link on it, and I forgot today.
Is it a banana tape to a wall again?
No, I never sent you that.
Oh, I thought you did.
No. Which reminds me that I got another one about that taco thing you told me about. I took a screenshot, forgot to send it.
Oh, the floor taco lady?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I learned how she rolls the tacos.
I tell you what, folks, for those of you who are listening, we're near Detroit, Michigan, and maybe Johnny Orange will even share it to 4x4 Talk or something like that.
Not this picture.
Oh, is there something else?
I know how she rolls the tacos now.
Oh, ew. There's a lady on Marketplace by us that is terrible. That is so terrible.
You want to see? I'm not going to show them.
There's a lady on Marketplace in Detroit that keeps selling tacos that she makes in her kitchen. And first of all, selling food on Marketplace I think is not even allowed.
I don't think so, no.
But she is always in some picture sitting on the floor, bare feet, rolling these tacos on her kitchen floor. Like these soft tacos and burritos. And she sells them. It's so gross looking.
So what I was going to send you, it's food related, but it was this 1920s like picnic set that you're supposed to mount in the back of a vehicle when you go like picnicking, I guess.
Oh, that would look good at the Mora in the back of the Willys or something.
It was cool, but it was one of those, it's got $1 price tag and it says, I'm asking a lot more than $1. So it's like, I hate those ones. All right, man. Oh, it pissed me off.
Well, think we can do this?
I think so.
Let's do it.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin with Keith and Johnny Orange, broadcasting from the Thin Line Off-Road Studio. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
So you once asked me a question, if I knew my alphabet when it came to Jeeps.
Okay.
So my question is to you, do you know the metric alphabet when it comes to these cruisers?
Okay, I'm going to say yes and no. You can test me if you'd like.
Well, so producer Andrew and I were discussing this earlier, looking over some of these notes that I had. I don't understand most of this, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, well,
So-
what before we even get into what Mr. Orange here is referring to is the Toyota Land Cruiser has been series numbered since the very beginning, starting at 10 or 25 or 20. And I know some of the early ones, he's going to probably test me on a little bit of this. And then it's always something in front, like a B or an F or an H. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, are you familiar with the, I don't know if I'm saying this, Bandeirante models?
Heard of them. I don't know if there's a difference between the Bandeirante or Bandeirante, however you say it, and U.S. version Land Cruisers. That I don't know.
2 pages of notes useless.
What you just put away 2 pages of notes?
It's mostly different build specs.
Well, okay, we can talk
one
about
of the
them in a minute.
examples- Yeah.
In a minute. Okay. Oh, so what were you going to test me on here?
What is the OJ40L?
What the
OJ40LV.
OJ?
OJ40LV-B. Or the OJ45LP-B.
Well, I can tell you what the other stuff is. I've never heard of an OJ. OJ45L. Okay. All right. Oh, this is the Bandeirante models.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know about these.
Yeah. It's just slight variations of them, apparently.
Oh, well, now I see why you pulled these up. Because these are powered by Mercedes diesel engines.
I actually didn't even notice that, honestly.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
Yeah, a bunch of these are.
So they are.
And now a newfound interest in Mr. Orange with his Mercedes
little
diesel
bit.
Jeep. Okay.
Yeah. Which I got to get back to.
All right, so besides the O series, that's how you stump me, or do you have something else for me?
No, that was it.
Okay, well,
Apparently
yeah,
I
okay, you
didn't-
stumped me. I'll have to do
Not
some more.
too successful.
I'm familiar in the U.S. mainly with the FJ series, which the FJ series would have been the F series engine, which was the gasoline engine, because that's all we got in the
Okay.
U.S. We didn't get any sort of regular importation of the
Yeah.
diesels. We had ones come down from Canada, but that was about it. Now, with that, then they had like the B series, the H series of these different models of Land Cruisers, and those were different diesels.
Yeah.
Now, the 40 series that we're talking about is kind of the iconic open top for the most part. There are exceptions to that, but the iconic open top Land Cruiser is the 40 series. So, that if you're going to really talk about that, you have to talk about like the history going back prior to the 40 series. You probably have some of that in front of you, but I'm going to just touch on some things.
A little bit.
Okay. Well, right during or after World War II, we had left some Jeeps in Japan. Japanese Imperial Army dragged them away, took them to Toyota, said, we need, something similar to this. We need this. This is what we need. So they made their version of it. And it started out as a military vehicle, just like the Jeep did. So if you take a look at the early open-top Toyota Land Cruiser, before they even called it the Land Cruiser, back then I think the Land Cruiser name came out in like 51. And you can correct me on that if I'm wrong on that. But
I don't have the note. But
the military version Toyota open-top four-wheel drive vehicles are very, very similar to the Jeep of World War II. The dimensions were very similar. The wheel bolt pattern is actually the same. 5 on 5.5. The axles are both offset to the passenger side, just like a World War II. What's interesting is those very first Land Cruisers, the architecture stayed the same all the way up through the 1980s.
Okay.
And the axles in them, maybe the Japanese saw that the American axles were a little weak or something in the flat fender Jeeps. And so they kind of reverse engineered the same design that we had used for the deuce and a half trucks, the larger trucks, or even like the power wagons over there. Well, back then they were the WC, WX, the Dodges, the World War II Dodges. And so they made a scaled down version essentially of a World War II Dodge axle with the dropout third member and just heavier duty. So they basically took and ripped off or borrowed design from both the Jeep and from the World War II Dodges and the six-wheel drive trucks, all the stuff we had left over there during World War II. And they put it all together in this small, extremely rugged little vehicle.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I think you had something you wanted to add about these early wartime ones.
No, not really. The only note, you already covered it. They're very similar to the CJs. Slightly larger, but very similar. And then, like you said, the same wheels.
Yeah.
I had a couple notes on that, but that'll be later.
Okay. All
Just
right.
other parts compatibility thing.
Gotcha. I got what you're saying. So, they had that, that first generation. And I'm looking right now just to kind of remind me of some of these things here. That first BJ series and FJ series, first generation, was like 51 to 55. Mm-hmm. And those models today are extremely, extremely rare.
I believe it.
Trying to find them. The grill looks more Jeep-like than it does Land Cruiser-like. It had slats in it. And eventually they changed from that. And then, of course, they went to the FJ40 grill design that everybody knows, which... Did you find out about that?
No, I did not.
You didn't find out about the grills?
More or less what I came across was like a timeline of stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're going to have some fun with this. So,
yeah, it's going to be very educational for me. I'll be first to admit that.
40 series grills. And this is, you know what? I'm going to tie this in. I'm going to tie this into one of our sponsors real quick. Okay. Quick Draw brand. We talk about them all the time.
I got a funny story about that in a minute.
Okay. Quick Draw brand. Chad calls me up at Quick Draw brand probably 2 years ago. Okay. When he, maybe 3 years ago, when he started to get into the new engine to transmission adapters. Mm-hmm. I know this is kind of a side note from our Land Cruiser 40 series here, but it ties in. I promise. So he calls me up and he says, I'm going to start doing these adapters. I've already got these ones designed. These are in production. Surprise, surprise, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this. I said to him, well, you need to do Land Cruiser adapters. And he's like, Land Cruisers? You're talking like those soccer mom vehicles that go around? I said, no, that's a Land Rover. That's a Range Rover or whatever. I said, no, you're talking Land Cruisers, these heavy-duty Japanese 4x4 trucks. He says, well, is there even any of those left in anywhere? And I said, yeah, they're very popular, East Coast, West Coast. You don't see as many around here. And I said, guys are modifying them, doing stuff with them all the time. So it started out, I took down, Chad, some transmissions, I think an engine, some Land Cruiser parts, and said, use these for your mock-ups, for measuring some things, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of developed some business plans on some things. Yeah. Maybe some proprietary stuff there. I don't know. But anyways, so I give them to him, and he starts getting everything together, and he gets his first initial ones designed, and he calls me up and he says, I want to test fit the 2.8 Cummins into a Land Cruiser. Okay. And I said, okay. I says, well, I don't have a Land Cruiser available right now for you to do this. And I said, but hey, I just happened to notice on, I think it was Craigslist. I said, one popped up just down the road from you. Mm-hmm. And it says, pretty good deal. So I sent him a link. He buys this thing that day. Just goes and buys it. A 40 series Land Cruiser. It was like a 1976 FJ40. Nice. So he buys this thing. He brings it back, does his test fitting, all this and that, blah, blah, blah. Boom, everything works good. Beautifully. Fits like a glove. Nice. His 2.8s, we've talked about it before, they slide right in with the Land Cruiser adapter. Mm-hmm. So I know this is kind of a long prelude. This is why Chad had a Land Cruiser for a short time. He does a video of some of his products with the front of the Land Cruiser in the background. Okay. And last year, we go out to SEMA, and I had not seen this video. He had not said anything to me about this video. And he puts the video up on this big screen TV in the booth on loop, and it's playing with the same music on loop again and again and again. And I watch the video, and I look at Chad, and I says, oh, thank God you have the grill right. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because he didn't know. Okay. Apparently, I don't either. Yeah, you're thick side up. Huh? Toyota 40 series grills are symmetrical. You can unbolt them and bolt them on upside down. Okay? Okay. They completely flip-flop. No problem. Yeah. Except one bar on the top is thick and the bar on the bottom is thin. For whatever reason, even Toyota restorers have put the grill on upside down because it kind of looks a little better, maybe, in some people's opinion. Not to me. I think they look right. And the Land Cruiser 40 Series crowd they are snobs about this. All right? I'm calling you guys out, man. You are snobs. You are snobs about this. But they even have T-shirts about it that say "thick side up," and they have the grill and stuff on them.
Nice.
So I tell this to Chad, and Chad says, "Keith, that is the most random thing." He goes, "No one in their right mind is ever going to notice that."
And he didn't know you that long at that point, did he?
Well, no, he had
to call you out for pointing that out.
Oh no, he had. And but he says to me, he says, "You're just an oddball, and no one's going to notice that thing." We're at the SEMA booth, and I kid you not, at least 15 to 20 times, we had some Land Cruiser person come by our booth, stand there watching the video, and they're like, "Well, at least the grill's on right." And Chad's like, "Really? Really? This is
awesome."
This is," and I says, "Dude, it would have been a nightmare if you would have been selling Land Cruiser parts with a Land Cruiser grill upside down on that thing. It would have been a nightmare." I said, "You would have gotten nothing but flack from everyone in the Toyota Land Cruiser crowd," and he's just like. So yeah,
that's awesome.
You had something you said on Quick Draw or something real quick.
Yeah, so I got a message from Quick Draw on Facebook saying congratulations, you won. And I
wait. Are you even eligible to win anything?
I don't know.
Well, okay.
I should clarify that. I never thought that. Anyway,
continue on.
I got really excited because I remember one of the more recent ones he had was a twin turbo thing, and I thought it was that. Well, I hadn't had a chance to read the message, so I was really excited trying to figure out, well, how can I use this thing? How can I install it? And I got home and like, was that the most recent one? So I scrolled through the page and looked.
Oh, you comment on his
palette.
He has all those prize, and guess how many are on this?
Yeah, guess how many boxes, first 10 win a T-shirt.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it was 35 boxes, so I got a T-shirt.
Oh, you got a Quick Draw T-shirt coming?
Yeah.
Or is it already there? Or?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So on the way. I'm excited, though.
Oh, well, awesome, yeah.
I'm assuming I'm still eligible.
Because Mr. Johnny Orange is a stage name, did he even realize that it was you?
Well, I did it through my regular Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he knows.
So he still may not have known.
Oh, that's
I don't
what I'm
think
saying.
He knows my last name.
That's what I'm saying. So
snuck that one under.
Okay, so speaking of shirts, before we continue, I love the shirt, Ed Henry. Thank you very much. Yep. I'm going to send you a personal thank you. Yes.
And can we get a thank you maybe yelled from producer Andrew over there?
Producer Andrew's got one too.
More than a thumbs up.
He's got a thumbs up.
Let's get real quiet. Maybe he'll whisper.
Yeah.
Wait, hold it. Oh, come on.
Oh.
You can say that to him. Well, we tried.
So
countdown's at 10.
His card's ready to be picked up, by the way. You can do it if you want.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah.
Riddle podcast. This is what we're doing now these days. He's just looking at us. Producer Andrew's down there looking at us like we're insane.
He's not wrong.
40 Series Land Cruiser.
Oh, that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
So, I feel like I'm not going to do it enough justice to try to get into all the technical specs. Like you said, you researched, you could read off some things, but that's why I kind of wanted to make this episode some Land Cruiser stories and things like that. Like I was just did with the thick side up thing.
Like I wanted to run that stupid little compressor that I had for 45 minutes to fill one tire up to push it into the museum.
Oh, on the Iron Pig.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a 40 Series. It's not a 40 Series.
I know. It's Toyota.
I guess let's talk about a couple of the different models here. Unless you got something on the Land Cruiser you want to talk about, or on the 40 Series you want to talk about specifically.
Not terribly specific. Like I said, it was just a lot of generic information, really.
Okay.
So
let's take a quick break. Let's recoup, and when we come back, I think it's story time again.
Okay.
Hey, it sounds like it's time to swap out that old engine for something better, John.
Yeah, man, but I have so much into my trans and transfer case setup already. I don't want to change those too.
Sounds like you need to call Quick Draw Brand Adapters. They specialize in conversion bell housings for nearly all diesel and gasoline engines, including the new 2.8R Cummins.
I like weird engines. I want something different.
Then you definitely need to visit QuickDrawBrand.com today. They have those hard-to-find parts. They also have used diesel engines available. You can call them at 513-446-9654.
Cool, I'll do that. See what they have. Thanks.
Okay, I promised you a story.
Okay.
40 series story. Like I said, disclaimer, I have only owned through my business parts and restorable 40 series Land Cruisers.
More than I've ever owned.
I've never wheeled one. I do have a buddy up north. Quick shout out to Tim. I don't know if I should mention his last name just because I know he's a real private kind of guy, but I know he goes as Timber Cruiser. So he goes around with, I'm sorry, not Tim, Dave. Why did I say Tim? Dave, he goes as Timber Cruiser, and he's had a number of Land Cruisers. He's the guy who introduced me to Land Cruisers back in the day.
Okay.
And he would take and mess with these things. He had 40 series, 80 series, and he used to tell me how cool they were and how I needed to get one. And as you know, I eventually did get into them, and I had the sickness bit, just like with you and the Jeeps.
I understand.
I'm big on that. So that was just kind of a quick shout out there and kind of how I got into it. But I've had these. Now, I got into the 60 series Land Cruisers, which I think maybe episode of 60 or something like that, we will talk about those, or
Sounds good.
Who knows, down the road we will more.
Yeah.
But I'm a big 60 series guy, and I could talk all day long about 60 series, and I can give you specs, and I can give you interchangeability and all sorts of stuff. But the 40 series, I don't have that encyclopedic knowledge of.
Yeah.
I was out a couple states over, away at school a couple years ago. I had just gotten into the Land Cruisers, the Toyota Land Cruisers. I am a broke, I guess not college student because it was a trade school, but I was at a school.
I said you go back to prove something to your dad that you're not a fool.
What?
They'll get it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Movie reference.
Oh, okay. Is that Adam Sandler?
You got it. You got it.
Are you talking about the Adam Sandler movie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. No. We went to dive school.
I know.
So I'm out in Minnesota. And one night I am finishing up my homework, and I'm on my computer, actually the same ratty old computer that I have right now that tells you how old this thing is. And I'm on Craigslist, and I find an FJ45LV.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you have notes about those or not.
I'm looking.
You're looking through your nose. I find this thing, and I see pictures of it. It's a 4-door wagon Land Cruiser. And I'm looking at this thing in the picture. I'd never seen one before. And I go, wow, this thing's really cool looking. It's kind of like my 60 series, but it's got the 40 series front on it.
Okay.
And so I start Googling them and checking them out. But I didn't really dig far enough to realize the rarity or the value of them.
Yeah.
Call up the guy. What do you want for it? He's like, $1,500. And I says, okay. And I said, well, I'd like to come out and take a look at this thing. So, typical car guy fashion. One of my buddies from school wanted to ride out with me. It was a Sunday. So we drive out there. He's in rural Minnesota, middle of absolutely nowhere. We ended up meeting the first guy from the Craigslist ad, and apparently he was helping his friend post one of those deals. Yeah, one of those deals. So this guy's a handicapped guy in a wheelchair. He wheels out, gets into his van, wheels into the van. We start following this handicapped van for like another 15 miles back into the bush. And
you didn't hear banjo start.
Oh, darn near. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so there's like 2 tracks. So we finally get up to this like, I would call it an encampment out in the middle of nowhere. And it's a junkyard.
Well away from cell reception, I'm sure.
Oh, well away. And there's big gates in the front. There's dogs barking, and the guy goes and starts yelling through the gate. And this guy that looks like straight out of some hillbilly movie where he's just got this big old beard and he's got this big floppy hat. Comes out and they're talking and yelling at each other for a little bit. And he's just sitting there with his van with his window down. And so finally he's like, yeah, I guess come in, show it to him, blah blah blah. So we go in. There's all these pit bulls on chains and stuff between all these old trailers and. We drive way back into the woods, and sitting on this trailer is this FJ45 LV, all original, every single part there.
Wow.
Dented, rusty, not rotted out, but dented, rusty, restorable, rough, very rough, but restorable. And it's sitting there, and I'm like, man, this thing's really cool looking. But not realizing that it was worth every penny of what they were asking, I'm like, I'll give you $800 for it. The guy's like, no, I'm getting my $1,500 no matter what. And I'm just like, no, I can't do it. And to this day, I kick myself for not coming up with the $1,500 to buy it. But I didn't. I probably had $800 to my name at the time. It was probably a stupid purchase at the time. Anyway,
I understand. I made a lot of those.
But I always wonder if that one's still there or if somebody else snagged it.
Might
finally.
be surprised.
It might be.
I mean, a lot of times stuff like that never moves.
Yeah.
Especially that far out in the middle of nowhere, you might get lucky.
Now, the reason I mentioned the FJ45LV is unless somebody can correct me, or maybe you can correct me, did you find the one that was purchased at auction?
I didn't find a specific one. I for your recommendation, I looked a few up that went for auction at a couple places, and I saw prices ranging from like 13 grand to 26 plus.
Well, now that was on the 40 Series open top, the standard Land Cruiser. Mm-hmm. But the FJ45LV, the wagon version here, this restored one recently sold at Barrett Jackson for $280,000.
Good Lord.
And then there's a buyer's premium, so I think it was over $300 by the time the buyer's premium and all that. It currently holds, unless something else has gone across the block since then, the world record for a four-wheel drive vehicle.
Jeez.
Any four-wheel drive vehicle.
What was so special about it?
I believe it was only I'm going to actually try to look. I think it was 1,500 of them made total. They were all handmade, and they were, there's not that many left, and there was just a handful of them.
Yeah.
It was also the predecessor to it, which would have been the FJ25LV, which is even rarer yet, I believe has the distinction of being the first four-door enclosed four-wheel drive SUV ever built. And so, they were a little ahead of time. But I'm just trying to look at it right now, buddy, but I don't see... without digging on here too much.
Dig through on the next break.
Yeah, there was only a handful of those FJ45LVs made.
I never would have figured something like that would bring that kind of money in a million years.
I mean, the restoration was beautiful. The guy who restored it said he lost money on the deal.
Oh, I believe it.
Because he spent that much restoring it plus.
I did find a company that actually still makes them. Like, they make and modify them. And they sell for like $185 new.
Icon?
I think that something like that. Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah, they make
that's
four-door
a heck of a
versions.
cult following, though. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Personally, I've never loved the lines of a 40 Series. Mm-hmm. I like them a lot.
They're kind of cool. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah. I think that some of those new ones, like the four-door version Icon's making and stuff, are just totally awesome. I mean...
Yeah.
But
I'll say this, I don't like let's see if I can find in my note here. It was one of the predecessors, or the successors to it, the FJ Cruiser. I don't like that thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
ugly as hell.
That's a very...
Oh, my God.
It's not a predecessor. It's just something that they made. Or successor, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we get into the Land Cruiser lineage that we talked about before, where the 40 Series was the utilitarian model, and it goes down through, and then the Land Cruiser family tree, and then eventually they went off with the FJ45LV being the first SUV, and then that branched to the Iron Pig.
Say, how big is the whole Land Cruiser family?
Huge.
It seems to be insanely all-encompassing. Just like I said, based on some quick searching I did, I said that's why I've only got a timeline here.
Well, the easiest way is to go by the series, because each series has different engines, different options.
Yep.
So the very first ones were the 20 Series, and the 10. So the 40 Series is the first mass produce.
Okay.
They're still around. They made them for years and years and years. 40 Series was the open top for the most part, unless you got a FJ45LV or a pickup truck. And most of the pickup trucks had a removable top.
Nice.
You had the FJ40, like I said, you had those. Then you go to the 55 Series, which was the Iron Pig.
Yep.
We have the 60 Series, which is what Brat Pack is.
Yeah.
The 70 Series was direct lineage from the 40 Series.
Okay.
And it's a utilitarian, very boxy, and it's still made today. Remember how we talked about the Sheik and his big museum?
Yeah.
And he had that ambulance door one? Mm-hmm. That was a 70 Series.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Those are the real rugged ones that are used overseas, but we can't get them here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The 80 Series is like my old Lexus that I used to have.
I've vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I think I'm thinking of another guy's though.
Now, this
No, I do remember that.
the 80 series is where for the U.S. we lost the solid axle. So the 80 had the solid axle.
Okay.
When we went to the 100 series, they had IFS.
Such a shame.
Very durable, very beefy IFS, but it still went IFS.
Yeah.
And then when they went to the 200 series, which they're in now, the 200 series got IRS as well. I know, exactly. And it became super luxury.
Yeah.
But so in the U.S., we've only had luxury Land Cruisers for the last 30 years, basically.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world has had these super beefy 70
Didn't we
series.
pick one of those up once, you and I? A luxury one?
Well, that was an old Lexus, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the one.
You've
I'm thinking
actually,
of
I
then.
think, picked up more than one Land Cruiser with me.
2 or 3, I think, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had dozens of them through here, so.
And it all blends together after a while.
exactly. I know we're not doing a lot of like huge justice. Like the 40 series, I would love to sit down and be like, okay, this particular person designed it, this particular, and give you that history. And I guess maybe I'm going to give you that opportunity. What do you got to have some hard notes on this thing that you wanted to mention?
Like I said, not a lot. They're all generic notes. Predecessors, successors. Is it body on frame?
Yes.
Which is one of those details. Available short, medium, and long wheelbase versions, gas, diesel engines. I've got notes like in 76, they started coming with disc brakes on the front axle.
Yeah, okay, so there's a note for a 40 series collector.
Yeah.
If you're going with you're looking to buy one for value, and not that anybody should ever do that, but if you are investing into the vehicle for value, 76 and newer 40 series, where you get the disc brakes, and there's a couple other upgrades as well mechanically.
Yeah, there's power steering in 79.
Yep, power
and
steering.
Air conditioning as options. Gears actually went from 411 to 370, though.
Yes.
They changed that.
Yeah.
Again, the whole highway-friendly fuel thing
Exactly.
at the time. What else did I have? Oh, they had a 4-liter inline or 4-liter 6-cylinder diesel
4 liter
in
6.
1980.
Oh, okay.
HJ47.
Oh, yeah. Okay. As you can see, it always ends with you have it starts with the letters, ends with the numbers. I don't know all of them. There's a number of these Land Cruiser guys that can sit there off the top of their head. By all means, I have never professed to be a Land Cruiser guru.
You know way more than I do.
I love them, but
Yeah.
the 40.
I've come to appreciate them more through you, just seeing what these things are built of, and they're impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
The way I was sold on Land Cruisers was I'm an axle guy. You know that.
Yeah.
I love axles. I love building axles. I love
axles and suspension.
Exactly.
Right up my thing too.
that. First Land Cruiser I ever bought was completely by mistake, and that was the 60 series. So I was going out to help our buddy Dan Blair mock up his Buick V6 for his CJ, doing some different motor mount stuff. Anyways, I was looking at the time for a vehicle I could take all the kids in, and I see this FJ60 sitting on the side of the road, and I look at it and I go, man, I could throw a third row seat in that thing and beef it up and have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
I'd had Toyota mini trucks before, and I was appreciative of them, but I'd never had a Land Cruiser. I buy the thing dirt cheap, get it back to my shop, start modifying it a little bit, pull the axles apart, and saw how beefy the axle components were for this essentially mid-sized SUV,
Yeah.
and it's built like a 1-ton truck.
I was gonna say, isn't it something like the axles on these are like the same or bigger than a Dana 60 shaft?
They're the 30 spline.
Yeah.
So
Like crazy beefy for
crazy
what it is.
for what it is. It's crazy,
Yeah.
crazy beefy. And so that was, what really impressed me. And then, put the thing together and been wheeling the wheel out of it for
Nice.
7 years now.
Nice.
But that's what really got me into the Land Cruisers, was just seeing how they were. Well, these were developed for the military, and they were developed in a lot of places as well for commercial use, like Africa and South America.
Brazil was a big one. So yeah, South America.
Oh, Brazil, yeah.
Yeah, that one I came across a lot of mentions of in Brazil. I don't remember if I had a page on that or not.
Well,
No. Oh, I do.
yeah, their pickup truck version, so the 45 series truck, has been very popular over the years as a mine truck.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it's narrow, I know, and it's like a mountain goat going up and down these hills. So those, speaking of values, same thing.
Yeah.
That was something you mentioned too, is values.
Yeah, they hold them. Seems to be anyway.
They hold them, and they've been going up and up lately
Which
in recent
is crazy
years.
seeing some of these 60, 70, or 1960, 1970 trucks going for 10 grand or more. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Oh, yeah. And even ones that are not restored
Yeah.
or anything like that.
It's crazy.
Something I have found with the 40 series crowd, though, that's really, really big for value is originality.
Yeah.
And, does it have the original toolkit? Does it have the original wheels on it? Does it have all these things? So if you're looking at one as an investment, obviously it's your vehicle. Enjoy it how you want to use it.
Yeah.
You're going to wheel with it. There's not a lot of 40 series on the trails in Michigan anymore. Now, other parts of the world, they're still being used.
Yeah.
But, they are rust prone too. So,
Yeah, I could see that. A lot of those old flat steel ones like that seem to be that way.
yeah.
It was just nature of the beast, or I don't know, materials used at the time, but they all seem to be that way.
They're easy to patch up at least, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean.
You can get on Craigslist, find those old washers and dryers. You get all kinds of nice flat sheet metal right there.
Yep.
Not that I've done that.
I
Actually haven't.
No?
I've saved some scrap steel from them, like a lid, I think, at one point. I didn't end up using it, but I didn't want to have to strip all the paint off and then repaint it, and I was lazy like that. It probably would have saved me a lot of money in metal had I done that, though.
I welded the back of one of my dad's trucks together with an old heater from a school. So
Nice.
It was the sheet metal,
Nice.
the cap. We haven't touched on news or anything like that in this episode. We've been jumping around telling stories, which is a lot of fun. But I think we need to take a quick break. And when we come back, maybe hit on our more
Sounds good to me. See you in a bit.
Is your septic system ready for the spring rains and melting snow? Let the experts at ABC Home and Commercial Services inspect your tank and properly pump it. A little preventative maintenance goes a long way in avoiding a system failure. Call ABC Home and Commercial Services today at 810-794-5678 and they'll be on their way. A septic pump is as easy as ABC. ABC Home and Commercial Services, 810-794-5678. That's 810-794-5678.
Welcome back to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange. Today we are talking about the Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 and a couple of the other similar related series of these things.
Well, yeah, like the 40 series, but then we've been jumping around a little
lot.
bit. Well, yeah, I know, man. And that's a problem for me because I love the Land Cruiser so much. And
It's such a wide, respectable history of all these things. It's crazy how big they really are. Again, when I first heard about these things, I thought it was more of like a niche market. Boy, was I wrong.
well, people who aren't even into Land Cruisers, a lot of times even just confuse them for Land Rovers.
I could see that,
And it's
yeah.
completely, it's different companies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we actually joke in the Land Cruiser circles a lot of times, no offense to our Land Rover listeners, but that, if you want style, you buy the Land Rover, and if you want reliability, you buy a Land Cruiser.
Where I worked, we had a customer with a Land Rover. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
Exactly. So that's the old joke out there is
Yeah.
that, one's got style, but one's got reliability.
Yeah.
So is what it is.
So I know we're talking more or less about the ones here in the U.S., so I'll throw this note out just because there's way more into this alone probably than we could get into in this entire episode, and then we can get into the news. So we were mentioning other companies they're big in or other countries.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. So in Brazil, they go by, that's the Bandeirante.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're, holy crap, dude. There's all kinds of specifics and versions of those from 68, I think it's through 1999.
Okay. Is
And
there
just-
something like super cool you want in there?
No.
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 What do you mean you don't want
There's
it?
just so many options. That's the ones with all the Mercedes options.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's crazy, the variety of them. Well, I mentioned I'll go over the shortest one here.
Okay.
From 1968, the OJ40 through the OJ45 LPB. If you want to hear how those series start over, I'm not going to read them all.
Okay,
again.
all right. I'm listening.
Differences were the short, soft top brush drive car, the short, hard top brush drive car, long, hard top brush drive car, or short pickup with native bed.
Yeah.
And it just,
It gets confusing after a while. It really does.
Yeah, I made the joke, the metric alphabet with those, because there's so many letters and numbers and dash this, L, LP, Bs, and just...
Well, I already mentioned that the axles were a reverse engineered of a couple of different U.S. products. We didn't mention that the engine, the initial engine one was as well. The F-Series engine, which was the first engines that you saw in the Land Cruisers.
Yeah.
With the 1F and then the 2F, which became very popular for many, many years. That was a metric ripoff, straight up metric ripoff of a 215 Chevy Straight Six circa 1940,
nice.
whatever.
We discussed that at some point.
I think we did, yeah.
Or just a brief note on it.
Yeah,
anyways.
if you pop the hood of my Land Cruiser, which has been desmogged, so it has, just a carburetor and a header on it. People have looked at it before and said, "Why did you swap a Chevy Straight Six in this thing?" It's like, no, that's the original engine.
Nice.
But it does. It looks like an old 40s Chevy Straight Six. I have heard that there are a couple of parts that with some slight machining will work in between the two.
I believe it.
It's like that close though. Like it's just off. It's a Twilight Zone version of a Chevy Straight Six.
That's awesome.
So it's
That's awesome.
It's the same weight. It looks the same. It gets half the gas mileage for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
yeah. Well, I'll say this: you mentioned the B series or the H series. So
the diesels, exactly.
4-cylinder, and then the 6-cylinder. These are 6-cylinder diesel.
Yeah, and I always mix it up. Now the B series, that was naturally aspirated diesel, I think, and then the H series was turbo or something.
My note doesn't say.
I might have that two flip flopped because they've done both. They've done 4-cylinder turbos, 6-cylinder turbos, 4-cylinder naturally aspirated. I think they've done 6-cylinder naturally aspirated diesels. They've done a lot of different diesels. In fact, I would venture a guess that the Land Cruiser family of off-road vehicles has probably had the most variety of diesels in it since day one.
I could say that. See that? I'll say it. The note I did find is diesel trucks were never sold to the general public in the U.S.
Yeah, no.
That seems crazy to me.
It's so sad.
Yes. I
sad.
wholeheartedly agree.
Well, that's why we got guys like Quick Draw, because now you can like swap one into one.
Yeah.
But
put a Cummins 12 valve in it.
They fit under the hood of the 60 series, like Brat Pack. You can put a 12 valve Cummins. There's a number of guys that have done it. Yeah.
Well, when you blow your engine up, I know what you're doing now.
I might. He's even got the adapters to do it. So
excellent.
But so yeah, my apologies to our Land Cruiser people that are listening. You might be going, "Oh man, you didn't talk about this. You didn't talk about that." Oh, little things. The early ones had hand cranks for starting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they had a hand crank option on them.
That is awesome.
There's all these little things with them.
Yeah.
Just 40 series Land Cruisers are awesome vehicles. They wide variety. They push Toyota's 4-wheel drive business like crazy for years. Of course, they had the mini trucks later on, but they're iconic, man.
Oh yeah,
they're iconic. Speaking of iconic things, you've seen some of the Museum of Off-Road Adventure This Day in History posts?
I have. Been having some issues on my phone, but I did see the big one that I know you're bringing up.
Well, yeah, today. So as of this recording, this is our recording date of January 16th, 2020. But
you remembered.
Yeah, I almost said 2019. You're right. Thank you. This day in off-road history, this is the Ford F-Series day. So today, Happy Ford F-Series day. I drive a Ford F-Series.
Do we cheers?
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
Clink.
Hey.
I drive a Ford F-Series. In 1948, January 16th, the Ford F-Series truck comes out as the F1. This is the first time that they are not based off a car chassis. They are actually a light truck chassis.
Okay.
As we know, the F-Series is still well alive today with F-150, 350, all the way through 700. So, but I don't know what happened with this post, because most of our posts on the Museum of Off-Road Adventure page on these This Day in History that load at 10 o'clock every morning, they get like maybe 800, 1,000 views, a dozen or so likes.
Yeah.
We're happy with that. It's great. It's great traffic. This one for the F-150 or the
Just exploded.
As of this,
Nuclear.
it's been up for 8 hours, 9 hours, and it's reached 27,748 people, and with 3,250 engagements, and 205 people have shared it.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, people. Is it? I don't know. Is it because one of the hashtags we used really worked, or is I know a couple. Like, I'm going to do a shout out. The Early Ford V8 Foundation shared our post.
Nice.
It looks like somebody from the Ford family might have even shared it.
Oh, cool.
So, thank you to those people that have a ton of followers that are getting the word about the museum out. But that just blew us away.
Yeah. Make sure to mention Wheelin next time too.
Mention Wheelin.
Yeah.
This is Wheelin.
No, and for them.
Oh, yeah. We need to figure out something to do. I've got some ideas, something a little different that we can do daily with this one.
Tool of the day.
I kind of like that. We can start out with you.
Ow. Ouch.
Man. Oh, man. I'm still getting over this cough.
Anyways.
Yeah. But, museum, that's the biggest museum news right now. We are also still playing around with some of the hours of the museum. We may explore going to being open Saturday instead of Sunday, having a weekday open. Beyond that, not a lot of big news for the museum this week. What about you? Anything in 4x4 news that you've seen?
Project XJ, I got the anti-rust layer of paint done again. It didn't take very well last time. The rust was too thick, so I had to reapply it again. So I had to wait for some warmer weather, and then...
Why don't you just remove the rust?
It's not bad enough to warrant cutting all that metal out. And what's left, like part of the frame rail and such, is surface rust. Can't really cut that out.
Okay.
So treat it, protect it,
cut it out.
encapsulate it. Well, you could, but this project would never get done if I did that.
Just like one of the projects I got at work right now, it wasn't us. Somebody else decided to do a little bit of demolition at one point, and they cut out this beam that only holds up like 13 floors above it. But
Oh, fantastic.
I'm looking at it going, I wonder why that's gone.
I don't want to be standing here.
But,
Yeah, see, I don't want to have that conversation with myself later when I break it.
yeah, with the Jeep.
So, yeah.
Like, I could,
So what's there, the way I'm reasoning it, it spent a little over 30 years of its life, and it only got that bad. If I treat it, cover it, protect it, it'll last indefinitely. Besides, I'm putting thicker steel over it anyways. So
Disclaimer, indefinitely rust-proofing a vehicle in Michigan means at least 24 months.
good point. Yeah. It will last a lot longer.
Yeah, it'll last a lot longer. Man, what else? You got anything else, buddy?
Well, we were mentioning about some of going back on topic anyway.
You keep wanting to talk about this thing, and I like that. I'm getting you interested in some of the things I am.
So some of the features they had on it, these were just some that I found listed on a website. So it's the 40 is prized with a lot of compatibility of General Motors products. So like you said, it takes the same 6 lug wheels as GM. And the transmission is compatible with the Chevy small block engines. So the 307, 327, and 350, which is kind of cool.
You said the transmission's compatible.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's not a direct bolt-on, but I think it's drilling a couple holes. But yeah, it's
and
the transmission's another thing. It's a metric ripoff of a GM SM420. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just says lesser engine changes and upgrades is an option. Surplus engines. Other components to replace it that are becoming a lot harder to get.
Yeah.
The
fancy way of saying there's conversion kits. There's the aftermarket support is huge.
Yeah. And all that being said, and note of that, Toyota still offers a lot of replacement parts for them too, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
We've touched a little bit on a couple episodes on the H55 5-speed transmission.
Yep.
Which is not a U.S. spec transmission. It was never available here. I found mine in Canada and brought it back here to the U.S. That transmission you can get brand new to this day, even though I don't think they produce any vehicles with it anymore. You can get it brand new from Toyota.
I believe it.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's something also that I have respected Toyota for many years.
Oh, yeah.
do their very best to continue to supply parts for their older vehicles.
And that's the nice thing with anything with that big of a following or that big of a popularity. That is so cool that a company will maintain support. You know, like the new AX-15s, for example.
Yeah.
They were out of production, now they're making them again.
Yep.
They were that popular, they brought them back, which is awesome. Now, if they'd start factory installing them, it would be even better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had the same thing. That's one of the reasons I'm a fan of Honda. And we did the Honda history episode way back. I don't even remember what episode the number that is, but
single digits.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Honda because Honda, you can go into a Honda dealership and 9 times out of 10 you can get a part for a 35-year-old Honda.
That's awesome.
Where one of their main competitors, I'm not going to talk too much nastiness there, but one of their main competitors, I owned one of their motorcycles. And the motorcycle when I owned it was, let me think of the year here, was about 18 years old.
Okay.
And I went into...
It was or you were?
Both, actually.
No. Okay.
Yeah, because the motorcycle was 1 year older than me at the time. And I went in to get some parts at said dealership. And the parts guy says to me, and this is obviously before big internet days, so this is 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an antique. I'm not an antique.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your motorcycle's an antique. The motorcycle's only 18 years old, buddy. Yeah, no, we don't stock parts for any of our products over 10 years old.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And I'm like, really? I just need a magneto for it. And nope. I searched, and that bike got parked because I couldn't get a magneto for it. And I eventually sold that bike. Now I could get one on eBay or whatever. But back then, it was parts then at that point.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Where if I would have had a Honda, I could have gone in.
Yeah.
Same thing with these Toyotas.
Yeah.
So,
I'll applaud any company that'll do that. Anyone that supports even an old, outdated platform, hats off to you. That is seriously awesome.
Something I also applaud Toyota for, especially with the 40 series, more so with the 40 series than any of them. So many times when you see a company, typically a Japanese company, but not always, but when you see a company take something that was built with American technology and reverse engineer it, reproduce it for sale in their own country or even for sale back to us, they cut corners and cheapen it.
Yeah.
And Toyota did the exact opposite.
They made a beefy hybrid.
Exactly. They took what they saw as weaker points of the current Jeep at the time. Now, mind you, the Jeep at the time was the World War II flat fender, which was meant to be a disposable vehicle.
Yeah.
Something they could push off a ship when they were done with it. They took that and they said, okay, well, we're going to do this, but we're going to beef it up here. We're going to beef it up here. We're going to make this, and they built what at the time, no one can argue. If you take a World War II Jeep and a 40 Series Land Cruiser and put them in, say, a tug of war or a, just hauling stuff in the back capacity, the Land Cruiser is going to beat it hands down.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was built to be a utilitarian.
Yeah.
It was a tractor for the road.
Yeah.
So they really did that. So I got to give them that, too. It's like they tried to find ways to improve upon our design instead of trying to copy our design and make it cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
and they built something that lasted to today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always news in the Land Cruiser world. There's a lot of people still speculating what the new Land Cruiser is going to be here, if we're going to get a new Land Cruiser or if North America is losing it. But it's still sold here. You can still buy a Land Cruiser from a dealership. Although I just saw a friend of mine who's big into Land Cruisers on Facebook mentioned that he cannot find a 200 series in a dealership anywhere right now. The dealerships aren't getting them in. It's special order only, basically.
Wow.
But they're like $90,000 MSRP on them.
Oh, well, there's half the problem.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wonder how successful it'll be, but yeah.
Well, the 200 series has been out for quite a time now, but he's just looking for one. So
Yeah.
But I would like to. Can I do a little bit of name dropping in this episode here? What do you think?
No.
No. All right. Good deal.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
There is a few people that you can tell from this episode that I am a Land Cruiser enthusiast.
Oh, yeah.
I've sold a lot of parts for Toyota Land Cruisers, but I'm still new to the Land Cruiser world. I've only entered the Land Cruiser world about 7 years ago. So I've been into other types of Wheelin and other types of vehicles for many, many years prior to that. In the last 7 years, besides Quick Draw being a supplier here, there's a couple of guys that I've called for answers about things, for parts. And first is George Esther. I think that's how it's pronounced, at Cruiser Brothers.
Okay.
And you can check out his website. If you want to just Google Cruiser Brothers, you'll find him. He has got, just a encyclopedic knowledge of Toyota Land Cruisers, all the series. And he restores them, rebuilds them, sells parts for them, one of the biggest names in the industry. Another guy's Torres Linning of Torfab, and he is doing the 2.8 conversions into the Land Cruisers now. I believe he also does LS conversions and does all sorts of modifications to them. Met Tor personally out at SEMA it would be last year or year before, 2018. Very knowledgeable guy. I'm missing other people. Those guys are just big names in the Land Cruiser world. Jeremiah Prophet's Land Cruisers. Or Prophet's Resurrection Land Cruisers.
Nice.
I've called him once or twice. It's been quite some time now about some parts. I don't know if I've bought things from him or not, but once again, I've met the nicest people in the Land Cruiser circles. Yeah. Kind of like the Jeep Wave thing.
Oh, yeah.
With the Land Cruiser people, they stick together and just super, super nice people out there.
Nice.
And it's a great community. And, you guys are going to rip me apart for being wrong on something in this episode or not adding something. It's not Mr. Johnny Orange's fault. I'm dragging him reluctantly into the Land Cruiser world. He will own one someday.
I don't know about that. Maybe.
I do appreciate all the notes you brought and everything, buddy.
I tried.
But you got anything else? What else you got?
Totally unrelated to this. I came across this in my parts hunting last night. In regards to our last episode, I found a pair of those Roxor axles.
For cheap?
$1,200 for the pair.
Oh,
Front comes with steering and springs.
Not bad.
I know.
Not bad.
I had the money.
All right, man.
So,
well, what do you think? Is it time?
I think so.
Or you got something?
I've got one final note before I end it here. So for those of you who are listening, we obviously greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And if you haven't had a chance to check us out on YouTube yet, make sure you go to youtube.wheelinradio.com, no G, and check us out on video. See what you think.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for listening and have a good one, everybody.